Bharat, if we go down to a little bit more popular literature that came out in our tradition to teach niti, the right policy to kings and princes and children in the royal families who will be given charge to govern kingdoms, to govern societies. So, for example, the text like Panchtantra, which is attributed to Vishnu Sharma, which is a collection of fables, short-lived stories told to the princes to teach them Niti Shastra, the policy. So, in this particular story, author Vishnu Sharma says this is being told to the princes in the form of a story. There is nothing in the world that cannot be obtained through wealth. So let a prudent man, see, this is about niti, the prudent policy. Let a prudent man therefore earn wealth by his effort. Let's continue further with this study of our survey of what our tradition has to say. Come to 20th century and the great Mahayogi of our times, Sri Aurobindo. What does he say about the right attitude towards money? He says, I'll read his own words, the acceptance of poverty is noble and beneficial in an individual or a class, but it becomes fatal and it pauperizes life. It makes life poorer. It pauperizes life of its richness and expansion if it is perverted into a general or national ideal. Very interesting and very important. As an individual, I may say, I want to live with very limited means, with very limited wealth, just enough to fulfill my most basic needs and not worry about tomorrow. As an individual, I can take this ideal. But when I make this into a national ideal, he says it becomes very perverted and it's actually very dangerous for the society or a nation. And then he reminds us that as long as our ancient India had this ideal of vast riches and vast spending, India was one of the greatest of the nations. And then somehow this tendency which glorified asceticism, which glorified letting go of material pursuits, when this tendency took hold of the Indian mind, our degradation started. So these are some very important things to keep in mind. This is still about the first category of attitude that we see in our tradition. And Sri Aurobindo also speaks about, he gives the example of Ramayana and how Rishi Valmiki portrayed what should be the ideal state of a society or even humanity. And he paints this beautiful picture of the rich and mighty Ayodhya, the great land that Ayodhya was, where everybody lived a rich and prosperous life. And Sri Aurobindo points this out, that Rishi Valmiki, when he gave us a vision, an image, a picture of ideal society, it not only included justice and enlightened state policies, it also included things like universal education, high morality, high seeking of spirituality. And at the same time, in Rishi Valmiki's vision, we also see that there was no one in Ayodhya who went without good food, who went without a house which also included a reasonable garden, who went without a reasonable accumulation of luxuries of life. So this was the ideal state, the ideal society, the vision of ideal society that has been painted by our great rishis like Valmiki, and Sri Aurobindo reminds us of that. So this has been the first category of attitude that we find in our ancient traditions. Then in the next video, we'll take a look at what is the second attitude that has been there in our Indian tradition. And then we'll explore how the two are integrated, and then we'll bring a little bit more deeper insight from Sri Aurobindo on the nature of money. Thank you so much.